Welcome, and thanks for tuning in once again for another scary Reddit story. We're making it a theme here today, another story from UnrealPhenomenon, because it seems last time you guys really loved that one. The everyone in my town is disappearing story that was. Today we have, again, from UnrealPhenomenon, the professor said he could control dreams. I think he's controlling me. Let's begin. I joined the Sleep Research Center last semester as part of my psychology program. It seemed like a straightforward way to boost my academic standing, another line on my resume, another step toward better opportunities. But now, I wish I'd never signed up. I won't waste your time. Something is wrong with this study. Something is wrong with me. I feel surrounded, like everyone is against me, like I have nowhere left to turn. People talk about waking up, about enlightenment, but this feels like the opposite. I've been sundowned, dimmed, diminished. I was in my Psychology of Life course, and we're reviewing sleep cycles and REM and all that. Professor Vandenberg taught the course. He had a reputation for making people uncomfortable, not by anything he did, just by standing there. From the pit of the auditorium, he seemed to tower over us. His posture was loose and unnatural, like a marionette slumped against its strings. Even the way he moved, jerky, imprecise, felt like a muppet miming human gestures. "There is an opportunity," Vandenberg announced, his voice smooth but hollow. "For select students nearing graduation, a chance to assist in an ongoing, complex study, to gain experience in my lab." He let the silence stretch. "Admittance will be determined by an essay," he continued. "It must be original, drawn from personal experience and introspection. It must be universal. It must be phenomenological." I didn't know much about sleep. I knew I never got enough of it. I knew about nightmares and phallic symbols, food and jung, REM cycles, lucid dreams, and sleep paralysis. But that wouldn't be enough. If I wanted to write something truly phenomenological, I had to experience something worth writing about. So, I made a decision. I ordered a mix of over-the-counter pills and improvised sleep cocktail. Anything to push me deeper into dreaming. The first night I took them, Alice stayed over. "You're really taking all those?" She eyed the mound of earthy pills in my palm. "You really think it's worth it?" Vandenberg is a weirdo. Never catch me sleeping with him around. "I need something to write about. If anything goes wrong, you're here to call an ambulance, or flip me on my side so I don't choke on my vomit." I didn't actually think I'd die, but it was a good excuse to get her to stay. Alice rolled her eyes. "So you're just going to be drifting away while I sit here bored? Guess I'll just drink alone." She repeated that word, drifting. I remember it clearly, or maybe I don't. Maybe I'm misremembering, but if I can't trust my memory, then I have nothing. I swallowed the pills, choking on their jagged edges, gagging on the taste of licorice and mud. My head hit the pillow. I fell asleep. Alice's voice hit like a siren. "Get the fuck up! Get up!" Cold tile pressed against my cheek. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, harsh and sterile. My head throbbed. "Huh? Where are we?" My tongue felt thick. "Police are coming. Fucking move!" Alice yanked me upright. The hum of washing machines mixed with her ragged breath. My vision rippled, warped, fishbowled. The world swayed like I was underwater. "Where are we?" I forced out. "A fucking laundromat. Now go!" Alice shoved me through the door. My legs barely held me. Pins and needles, 2 sacks of worms, my chest a hollow tree trunk. Behind us, a voice buzzed like a nest of wasps. Where did they go? Alice dragged me into an alley. No one found us. I broke in and passed out. My voice felt distant. I leaned my head against the back of the couch. Alice nodded and handed me a glass of water. Drink. And yes, but not exactly. You broke in through the window, then passed out inside. The laundromat wasn't even closed. A handful of people saw you and called the cops. I was a little worried about how the alcohol would mix with everything. I frowned. I don't remember drinking. I didn't remember getting back to the dorm. I didn't remember anything. A cold weight settled in my chest. Did she drug me before? Is she drugging me now? I stared at the empty glass in my hand. How did we get back here? Alice exhaled sharply. You're done with the pills. Experiment over. Sleep like a normal person. Drift, drift, drift. The way a normal person does. And then I woke up. Yeah, I get it. Alice didn't look up from her phone. She exhaled through her nose, a soft sigh every few seconds. Was she laughing at something? I should have counted how many times she did that, timed it, measured the rate. Maybe that would have revealed something. Only once more would I tell Alice what I dreamt. After that, I stopped speaking about the dreams, because when I did, they felt more real. I kept going like this, dreaming, documenting, searching for something worth writing about. My dream journal sprawled across the floor like a detective's case file, red, threaded veins running across the pages. Themes. Alice tells me to stop taking the pills. Stepping on broken glass, I watch myself die. I hear people talk about me. I am someone else. I'm being attacked. No one will help me. I am haunted. None of it means anything. I learned this. Dreams have structure, levels of immersion. You can be lucid or half lucid, aware of the dream but not fully in control. You can feel everything or nothing. You can dream in first person or third. Sometimes you're omnipresent, like a god, a cold camera detached from it all. Perhaps that's what God is. Perhaps he's nothing more than an observer, coldly recording. May I say detailed this structure? Vandenberg gave me the position, and I stopped taking the pills. My work at the lab started immediately. Vandenberg said the study had been running for some time. This was just another phase, another iteration of what had already been done. Further validation. I arrived at night and waited in the empty lobby for Vandenberg. No secretary at the desk. The fluorescent lights flickered, dimmed and fogged over. A door swung open, and there he was. I realized then I never stood close to him. He was ungainly, towering at 6'10", his lab coat sagging off his wiry frame like a melting candle. He shook my hand, cold and clammy, a dead fish with thin quills jutting from its body. I pulled back, feigned itching my face. My hand smelled of frankincense. He handed me a clipboard. Let's start the rounds. At first glance, the lab looked comfortable. Each room had blackout drapes, tight-fitting sheets, a sink, a mirror, a desk-side lamp, and a pair of eye shades resting on the pillow. Monitoring equipment loomed in the unpeopled corners, screens dead and waiting for a touch to bring them to life. A green light glistened from a dot in the ceiling. Smile, you're on camera. We entered a participant's room. Vandenberg gave no notice of his entrance. He simply walked in and stood over the participant looming. The man lay motionless on his bed, his eyes wide open, staring. The eye shades don't fit right. Do I have to wear them? He asked, his voice weak. This smoke is bothering me. Is there... Vandenberg cleared his throat. Part of the condition requires wearing the eye shades and consistent attire. It's a potential confound if you don't. The man said nothing. Vandenberg stepped closer, his legs pressing against the side of the bed. He pulled a vial from his lab coat, unscrewed it slowly, and ceremoniously waved it under the man's nose. Then he sealed it shut. Drift, drift, drift. Dream like normal. He gestured for me to follow him out. He snapped the lights off and shut the door. I swear I heard the man snoring before it clicked shut. As we left the room, Vandenberg turned to me. Write this down. Participant 55 requests an attire change. Denied. I nodded, scribbled it on the clipboard, and followed him to the monitoring station. The panopticon, he called it. Vandenberg sat and patted a chair next to him. I took a seat. Even while sitting, he towered over me, his presence overwhelming. I felt that dizzying sensation of looking up at a skyscraper, standing as a speck at its base. He turned toward the wall of monitors. Sleeping bodies filled the screen. Static bled through, distorting their features, like watching an old VHS tape with a soft, haunting fuzz. Vandenberg was silent as he watched them sleep. Every so often, he touched a finger to the screen, as if miming some internal dialogue, or he'd see a slight movement and exhale a soft, "Oh." Then I heard it, a faint buzzing, like a nest of wasps trapped behind glass. It wasn't the monitors, not the machines, but something about Vandenberg's voice. His tone was slow, droning, almost hypnotic, like his words were buzzing around the edges of my mind. He didn't acknowledge it, but the buzzing seemed to intensify as he spoke. "What happens when you observe someone's dream?" he asked, his voice soft and measured. "Don't answer. Psychics know this one. The outcome changes." He raised a spindly finger in a eureka gesture. "You can observe their dreams?" I asked, my curiosity piqued. Vandenberg smiled, almost gently. "No, that does not exist, I'm afraid, but we can teach them to dream certain things." "Like lucid dreaming?" I pressed. He nodded. "Much the same. Only the locus of control is external. We determine the dream content, not the participant." He leaned forward, voice lowering, the buzzing almost pulsing in the air around us. "Imagine this. You have a fear of public speaking, but you must give an important presentation. You come to us and we can erase that fear by manufacturing dreams that generate positive feelings. Guaranteed successful outcomes. Assured confidence. Do you see?" A small light on the panopticon wall blinked red. Vandenberg let out a soft sigh, the buzzing dissipating for a moment. "I think we'll end observation for now. I don't want to overwhelm you on your first night. Besides, you'll need to study for my exam." He smiled, his teeth impossibly straight, white, and aligned. "Let's resume again tomorrow evening, same time." With a quick gesture, he ushered me out the dark of the parking lot. He shouted, "Good night," locked the door behind me, and disappeared back into the lab. Alice came by while I was still wide awake, and she always seemed to be the same, never asleep, always moving. "Sounds pretty weird just watching people sleep like that," she said, her voice flat. "Just watching people drift, drift, drift." "Why are you saying that?" My voice was sharper than I meant. "Holy hell, don't start yelling for no reason. Maybe you should get to bed. I'm sure you've had a long day." "No, you've said it before. You said it, and the professor said it." I took a slow breath, then grabbed a glass of water. I didn't remember pouring it. The room smelled like frankincense, thick and suffocating. "He probably said it during a lecture or something. I don't know, maybe I just unconsciously picked it up. He says all sorts of weird shit, doesn't he?" Alice barely looked up, scrolling through her phone. It's too late. Care if I stay over? I woke up in the middle of the night, just opened my eyes, didn't stir. I felt Alice close behind me, her breathing warm against my skin, felt her move even closer. She put her mouth near my ear and whispered, "Dream like normal." Her breathing became rhythmic and metronome. I thought to turn over, but my body wouldn't budge. I felt myself rising, floating, my body detaching, my back now pressed against the ceiling. I saw Alice and myself from above, but her whispering still echoed in my ears. Breathing, then whispering, breathing, then whispering. Blinking, I found myself somewhere else. I hovered above a grid, 5 by 5. I tried to focus, but the red light illuminating each cell made it hard to see. My body, or spirit, moved closer, isolating one of the cells. Inside, a bed, a person tied down, their eyes shaded. The red light barely lit the room, casting everything in an eerie glow. The edges of the room were lost in blackness. The darkness bled into the center, black to red, a soft, womb-like light. I noticed the monitoring equipment in the dark corners, the faint shimmer of a green recording light, the smoke on the sleeping person. I woke up. It keeps happening. I don't know what to do next. I still see the rooms most nights. I stopped taking the pills months ago, but the dreams haven't stopped. I can't make out their faces. Can't tell if I visit the same room or a different one each time. Alice denies everything, saying anything, doing anything. My constant questioning drove us apart. We're taking a break, and I haven't seen her in months. Some people say she got expelled for underage drinking, or that she dropped out on her own, left the school intentionally. Plenty of people don't even remember her. Strangely, I found a photo of her at the lab. She stood alongside Vandenberg and some others. Their expressions, unreadable. On the back, someone had written Cohort 1. There were other photos too, different groups, different years, but no one else I recognized. I still wake in the middle of the night sometimes, hear Alice whispering to me, and then I wake up again, completely alone. Vandenberg's class is over, but I still help out in the lab. It's slow, mostly uneventful. I've thought about quitting, but I get a stipend, and, more importantly, a guaranteed spot in the graduate program if I stick with the study. A few participants have dropped out, their names crossed out in red ink. One day, while searching for a clipboard, I found some old forms, lists of past participants. The same red slashes through their names next to a few of them. Vandenberg had written a single word in his cramped handwriting. Prescient. There are still many nights he rushes out to the lab to close up early or handle some vague emergency. One night as he hurried me out, I asked him what the blinking light meant. "It would confound the study if I were to tell you. Some knots aren't meant to be untied," he said, shutting the door behind me. It's been over a week since I last saw Alice, my ex-girlfriend, I guess. I've tried texting, but nothing goes through. My messages hang there, dead on the screen, like I'm sending them into an abyss. The phone calls end abruptly with a recorded message. "We're sorry, the number you've dialed." Then I just hang up. It's strange. No one even seems to care that Alice is gone. No one remembers her. It's like she never existed. Things are different now. Vandenberg isn't just some professor running a study. He's something else. I've continued working with him, and strangely, he's the only one who remembers Alice. It's comforting, in a way. His presence is still the only thing tying me to her. Even people who just days ago talked about Alice moving away don't remember her now. They don't know anyone by that name. A few days ago, after we finished the rounds with the participants, I asked Vandenberg about Alice. I still had the picture, the one from her time in the first cohort. I couldn't bring it up yet. It felt like I was holding on to forbidden knowledge, something I shouldn't have. I wanted to wait for the right moment.
Sure, I remember her,
Vandenberg said, a smile flickering at the edge of his lips.
She was a great student. You two were close?
We were. I let my gaze drift, staring into the panopticon. Vandenberg stepped away, rifling through the file cabinet nearby, humming to himself as usual. The panopticon flickered, all 25 screens tinted red. I leaned in and saw participants in their beds, tied down with leather restraints, cables pulled from their heads, feeding into the dark corners of the room. Then, 2 participants started to struggle against their restraints. Their veins bulged as the red light on the panopticon blinked faster. I looked at the light, then back to the screen. Everything was normal.
I need a favor of you,
Vandenberg said. He rhythmically tapped on his clipboard. It took a moment, then I realized I was holding my breath.
Nothing too serious. Recall the file room downstairs. Go grab the file, Renault A. I think it's worth a review.
My mouth went dry. I nodded, stood up, and turned to leave. I glanced at the panopticon again. Nothing was amiss.
And take this,
Vandenberg said, holding out a keycard. It had my name and photo printed on it. I didn't remember posing for any photos, much less taking one like this. The lighting in the picture was dim, casting an odd, placid expression on my face, almost beatific. With a hesitation that felt too long, I slid the card into my pocket and made my way down to the basement. I pushed the button to call the elevator. I heard the car ascending, the buzz of the machinery growing louder, but when the doors chimed open, they didn't move. I jabbed the button again. Nothing. The buzzing sound persisted, straining, failing. Then a hand landed on my shoulder. I froze.
I suppose you'll have to take the stairs.
Vandenberg's voice drifted into my ear.
Sorry, the technician won't be here until tomorrow.
He pointed down the hallway with a relaxed gesture.
The lighting in the stairwell's not great, so do be careful,
he added, almost as an afterthought.
I must go check on Subject 6. Apologies.
I wasn't sure why, but I felt compelled to obey. There was a strange sense of purpose inside me, like something inside me was telling me I had to do this, that it was important. Logically, I knew I should resist. I should question this strange request, but it was hard to argue with feelings when they were feeling so overwhelming, like they were guiding my every step. I creaked open the door to the stairwell. I'd never taken this route before. Dim would have been an understatement. The stairwell was barely lit, the faint glow of a single, bare bulb hanging from the ceiling, struggling to light even the first flight. Below, the stairs descended into total darkness. With my phone light trembling in my hand, I started my descent. The basement level was deeper than I had expected. After rounding the second set of stairs, I was greeted by another set. How far down does this go? Leaning over the railing, I aimed my phone's light downward, but it was futile. The beam seemed to vanish before it could touch the bottom. Why were there no lights further down? Looking back up, I saw the bulb above me, faint, struggling, a distant glow into an endless spiral of concrete. I didn't realize how many flights I had descended. 10? More? My legs felt surprisingly fine, but everything else felt wrong. At last, I saw it. The door. It was painted white, but there were flecks of paint missing, revealing a startlingly bright wood beneath. It was a jarring contrast to the rest of the lab, like it didn't belong at all. I reached for the handle, it didn't move. I looked at the card reader beside it, blinking a harsh red. Swiping my keycard, I heard the familiar click of the door unlocking. It was clear now. This was not the file room I was expecting. Something deep inside me clicked too. This felt like the culmination of something much bigger, like I'd been walking down a path I was never meant to find. It was like Hercules visiting the underworld, but I didn't feel bravery. I felt small, insignificant, like I was about to encounter something that would obliterate me entirely. I opened the door. Inside was a room bathed in diminished red light, the color of something decaying. I could hear nothing but the pounding of my own breath and a strange buzzing, like a wasp nesting inside of my skull. In the center of the room, an empty bed sat, vacant restraints hanging loosely on either side. The carpet beneath my feet was old, worn, and unsettlingly soft. I took a few steps toward the bed, my body moving as if it compelled. And then I woke up, back in the panopticon.
You were clearly a bit shaken from going down there alone,
Vandenberg said, his tone casual, like he was talking to a student who had missed a question on a test.
And to be honest, you are completely sleep deprived. I should know. I saw you nearly pass out when you came back, basically delirious.
Stop, I shouted, my voice louder than I meant. No, I was down there, and it was different. I saw it on the monitors. I've seen it before too. I tried to explain, but the words caught in my throat. I couldn't convey what I felt, not clearly. Vandenberg didn't respond immediately. Instead, he reached over and grabbed the file from the desk. He flipped it open, revealing the tab, Renault A. The name seemed to burn on the page.
Here's your proof,
he said, flipping the file toward me. You got the damned file. What more do you need? He sighed, almost bored.
It's simple, really. You dreamed bad. It happens to all of us. Go take a few days off. Rest.
I didn't know what to say. I just turned and left the lab. That night, I didn't recall any dreams, but as morning broke, I couldn't shake the feeling that what I'd experienced was nothing more than delirium, a side effect of sleep deprivation. After all, I'd barely been sleeping. Still, the feeling of wrongness lingered. There were fragments of the night I couldn't quite piece together. I had a break from the lab now, but my mind was still racing. I kept thinking about Alice, about where she was. How could someone just disappear like that? I tried to hold on to the thought, but it kept slipping through my fingers like sand. Can I even hope to find her without Vandenberg's help? What if he's the only one who has the answers? What if... No, I couldn't go down that path. I couldn't rely on him. But what else was there?